Did you know 90% of jazz legends struggled with alcohol, performing drunk on stage while their genius drowned in bottles they couldn't put down? From Charlie Parker pawning his saxophone for a drink to Chet Baker's tragic fall. Here are 20 jazz legends who were drunk all the time. 1. Miles Davis. More than a jazz musician, he changed music over and over again. Miles Davis's albums, like Birth of the Cool and Bitches Brew, reshaped jazz. But behind his success, he struggled with something dark. He drank, not just for fun, but as if trying to escape something. His temper was well known, and alcohol made it worse. Davis wanted everything to be perfect. But when he drank, he didn't just give criticism. He tore people down. He insulted bandmates, producers, and even fans. Sometimes he played badly on purpose or walked off stage in the middle of a song. By the 1970s, he disappeared from public life. He stayed inside his Manhattan home, drinking all the time. He barely ate, barely spoke. Friends who visited found him thin and lost, surrounded by empty bottles. The music that once made him famous stopped. In the 1980s, he made a comeback. He still had his talent, but he still had his problems. Some nights, he played like a genius. Other nights, he barely seemed present. People admired him, respected him, but he was still trapped by his own struggles. 2. Charlie Parker. Called Bird, he changed jazz forever. Charlie Parker played the saxophone in a way no one had before, making bebop fast and exciting. But he also lived recklessly. Alcohol was always with him. He drank before, during, and after playing. Sometimes it made his music sharper and more creative. Other times, it made him sloppy. He pawned his saxophone for alcohol money, showed up to gigs without it, and left his band scrambling. His downfall was inevitable. In 1951, he was arrested and sent to a mental hospital. It was the only time he was forced to be sober. But once free, he went back to drinking. By the time he was 34, he looked like an old man. When he died in 1955, his body was so damaged that doctors thought he was at least 50. Charlie Parker was brilliant, but alcohol took him too soon. Who knows what else he could have created if he had lived longer. 3. Billie Holiday. Didn't just sing jazz, she lived it. Billie Holiday's voice carried all her pain and struggles. From childhood, life was hard for her, and as she grew older, alcohol became her escape. She always had a flask, drinking between songs to dull her pain. She faced racism, bad relationships, and a world that treated her unfairly. Some nights, she sang beautifully, moving people to tears. Other nights, she was too drunk to perform. By the 1940s, alcohol wasn't enough, and she turned to opioid. This made her life even harder. She was arrested, jailed, and banned from singing in New York. But she kept going. When she recorded Lady in Satin, her voice was weak and tired, but still full of emotion. She died in 1959 from liver disease. Even in her final days, she was handcuffed to her hospital bed, broke and alone. Billie Holiday left behind more than music. She left behind a story of pain and resilience that people will never forget. 4. Chet Baker. A jazz legend known for his smooth trumpet playing and soft, dreamy voice, Chet Baker was a star in the 1950s. His music was beautiful but carried a deep sadness. He seemed effortless, but behind the scenes, he had struggles he couldn't escape. At first, Baker just drank to relax and enjoy himself. But over time, alcohol took control. He started drinking too much, stumbling on stage, forgetting notes, and slurring his words. His bandmates lost patience. Fans still loved him, but they saw their hero falling apart. In the late 1950s, things got worse. He became addicted to opioids. The substance ruined his career, drained his money, and changed his once handsome face. In 1966, he was attacked and lost his teeth. For a trumpet player, this was a disaster. He had to relearn how to play using dentures, a painful and slow process. In the 1970s, Baker moved to Europe. He kept playing music, but he was not the same. His body and mind were weak. He wandered the streets of Amsterdam, looking lost and broken. Then, in 1988, his life ended in mystery. He fell from a hotel window. No one knows if it was an accident, self-inflicted harm, or something else. Chet Baker's life was full of talent and pain. He had everything but lost it all. His music remains, capturing the beauty and sadness of his story. 5. Stan Getz. A saxophone player with a beautiful, smooth sound, Stan Getz was called The Sound because of the way his music flowed like silk. His saxophone playing was soft and warm, mixing jazz with Brazilian beats. He gave the world amazing music, but his life outside of music was not so smooth. Getz had a serious problem with alcohol. He wasn't a fun drunk, he was mean and aggressive. He drank to feel strong, to control others, and to let out his anger. His drinking caused fights, ruined friendships, and hurt his career. People feared him as much as they admired his talent. In 1954, his drinking led him to do something terrible. He tried to rob a pharmacy to get morphine while he was drunk. He was caught and sent to jail for 6 months. Many thought this would be a lesson for him, but it wasn't. He stopped using hard substances, but he never stopped drinking. Even when he became world famous for playing The Girl from Ipanema, alcohol was still ruining his life. His home life was just as bad. His marriages were full of fighting, and his temper caused deep pain to the people around him. He tried to control his drinking, but he always went back to it. By the late 1980s, his body was breaking down from years of drinking. In the end, liver cancer took his life in 1991. He left behind incredible music, but also a sad story, a man with great talent who couldn't escape his own worst habits. 6. Lester Young. Known as Prez by Billie Holiday, Lester Young changed jazz forever. His saxophone playing was light and smooth, almost like it was floating. No one had played like that before. He was cool, effortless, and ahead of his time. But behind his talent, he carried deep struggles. Young was quiet and sensitive. He avoided conflict, never standing up to fight. When life got hard, he turned to alcohol. He didn't drink loudly or angrily. Instead, he slowly faded away, disappearing into his own world. The worst moment came during World War II. The Army drafted him, but he faced racism and cruelty. When he was caught with marijuana, he was dishonorably discharged. That experience broke something inside him. He came back changed, sad, empty. Drinking became his way to cope, but it only made things worse. At first, he could still play beautifully. His music carried the same magic, but over time, his drinking took over. Some nights, he played like a legend. Other nights, he could barely hold his saxophone. His health crumbled. His face grew thin, his hands shook, and his music started to suffer. By 1959, he was at the end. He drank whole bottles of gin in one sitting. His body was failing. In March, he died alone in a hotel room, his saxophone by his side. When Billie Holiday heard the news, she whispered, "I'll be next." She was just months later. Charles Mingus wasn't just a musician. He was a storm. Charles Mingus played bass with power, wrote music that broke all the rules, and demanded perfection. But with his genius came chaos. Mingus lived on the edge, his anger always near the surface. And when he drank, that anger exploded. Mingus didn't just drink, he drowned in it. Alcohol fed his temper. He yelled at bandmates, smashed instruments, and sometimes even attacked people. He wanted perfection, and anyone who fell short felt his rage. But his drinking wasn't just about anger. Mingus fought inner demons, depression, paranoia, and a restless mind. Alcohol helped, but only for a little while. Sometimes he would stop playing mid-performance to yell at his musicians. Other times he would storm off stage. His talent was unmatched, but his self-destruction was just as strong. Club owners hesitated to book him. Bandmates left, but Mingus refused to change, even when it hurt his career. As he got older, the damage became clear. His once strong presence faded. Then an even worse fate struck: ALS. The disease took away his ability to play. He could no longer hold his bass, but his mind still burned with music. He dictated his compositions to his wife, refusing to let the disease silence him. When he died, he left behind music that still amazes the world. 8. Art Pepper. Played the saxophone with a sound full of deep emotion. Art Pepper's music was raw, filled with pain, and always on the verge of chaos. He was an incredible musician, but his life was a mess. Addiction controlled him. He struggled with both opioid and alcohol, and it nearly destroyed him. As his career grew, so did his problems. He often arrived at performances drunk, his fingers clumsy, his mind lost. Some nights he played beautifully. Other nights he couldn't even finish a song. Club owners stopped hiring him. Friends gave up on him. Arrests piled up, and he spent years in prison. Even behind bars, he found ways to drink. When he got out, freedom didn't save him. It just gave him another chance to fall. But in the late 1970s, he made a comeback. He poured his pain into his music, releasing albums that revealed his struggles. He spoke openly about his addiction and failures. His music became his way of confessing, every note filled with honesty. But the damage was done. His body couldn't handle the years of mistreatment. In 1982, his heart gave out. His life ended the same way he had lived, on the edge. How many times can someone fall before they stop getting up? 9. Bud Powell. Played the piano like no one else. Bud Powell's fingers flew across the keys, creating new sounds that changed jazz forever. He was a genius, but his mind was troubled. He suffered from mental illness, and alcohol only made it worse. His struggles went beyond drinking. Schizophrenia haunted him, and the mix of liquor and illness was dangerous. He often showed up to performances drunk and confused. Some nights, he was brilliant. Other nights, he was lost. People never knew which version of him they would get. Then came the hospitals. He was locked away in institutions, given electroshock therapy, and treated poorly. These treatments took a toll on him. The light in him dimmed. When he played, it was as if he was trying to find himself again, trying to remember the musician he used to be. But the world is not kind to people who can't be controlled. He lost jobs. People avoided him. His friends could only watch as he fell apart. By the 1960s, Powell was a broken man. His body, worn down by alcohol and neglect, finally gave up. He died at 41, leaving behind a musical legacy that was both brilliant and tragic. He changed jazz, but it cost him everything. 10. Jaco Pastorius. Was not just any bass player, Jaco Pastorius changed the way people saw the instrument. His fretless bass made sounds no one had heard before, almost like a voice singing. He brought new energy to jazz fusion, making his bass lines fly and bend in ways that amazed people. But his talent came with a problem: his drinking. At first, Jaco could handle it. He would have a few drinks before a show, but he still played better than anyone else. The problem was, he never knew when to stop. Over time, alcohol took control. One night, he would play something unforgettable. The next, he could barely hold his bass. He became unpredictable, sometimes even dangerous. He would crash other musicians' performances, start fights, and act out of control. By the 1980s, things got worse. Jaco had no home, wandering the streets of Florida, far from the famous stages he once owned. Friends tried to help, but he pushed them away. He seemed stuck, lost in his own troubles. Then came the final blow. One night, he got into a fight outside a nightclub. He was beaten badly and fell into a coma. Soon after, he passed away. He was only 35. 11. Fats Navarro. A trumpet player with incredible skill, Fats Navarro's notes were fast, smooth, and full of life. He played alongside jazz legends like Dizzy Gillespie and Charlie Parker. But his story was not just about music. It was also about bad choices. Like many jazz musicians of his time, he struggled with drinking and substances. The jazz clubs of the 1940s were filled with smoke, late-night music, and endless partying. Alcohol helps musicians keep going, but it also wears them down. Navarro was no different. On stage, he was a genius. Off stage, he started missing shows and messing up rehearsals. His body couldn't keep up with the life he was living. By his mid-20s, Navarro was very sick. Tuberculosis, made worse by years of drinking and substance use, took over his body. He tried to keep playing, but he was getting weaker. Then, in July 1950, at just 26 years old, he passed away. His music is still here, full of energy and promise, but he never got the chance to see how great he could truly become. What amazing things could he have created if he had more time? 12. Bix Beiderbecke. Before jazz became what it is today, there was Bix Beiderbecke. He played the cornet in a way no one else did. His music was soft and smooth, not loud like other jazz players in the 1920s. People loved his unique sound, but behind his talent, he had a big problem: alcohol. It slowly destroyed him. Bix was different from other musicians. Many jazz players were loud and full of energy, but Bix was quiet. The busy, noisy world around him felt too much. He started drinking to feel better, to make things easier. At first, it seemed to help, but soon the drinking took over. Some nights, he played beautifully. Other nights, he could barely hold his cornet. He got a big chance when he joined Paul Whiteman's orchestra. This should have been his moment to shine. Instead, it showed how much trouble he was in. He missed shows because he was too sick. He tried to stop drinking, but his body was already weak. By the late 1920s, his health was getting worse. Bix spent his last days alone in a small apartment in Queens. He kept drinking until his body could take no more. In August 1931, he died. He was only 28 years old. A great musician, gone too soon. Even today, people still listen to his recordings. His music is special, but his story is a sad one. It shows that talent is not enough. Without control, even the brightest stars fade too fast. 13. Pee Wee Russell. A jazz clarinetist with a sound like no other, Pee Wee Russell's music wavered, bent, and twisted in ways that made it hard to predict. He started in traditional jazz, but his playing was so strange and ahead of its time that some people thought he helped create avant-garde jazz. If his music was unpredictable, his drinking was even worse. It seemed like he was always on the edge of losing himself completely. Russell drank as if he wanted to disappear. He was thin, with deep eyes that looked haunted, and his face showed the toll of too many years lost to alcohol. He didn't drink for fun or friendship. He drank because he wanted to escape. Some nights he played with such wild talent that people were left speechless. Other nights he could barely hold his clarinet. Sometimes he wandered away in the middle of a performance, leaving his bandmates scrambling. Other times he just stared at the audience, trapped in his own mind, unable to return to the real world. Years of heavy drinking destroyed his body. The jazz scene was full of troubled musicians like him, but Russell's downfall seemed especially harsh. He was already frail, and his drinking made things worse. In the 1960s, he tried to turn things around. He sobered up enough to start playing again and even embraced modern jazz, finding a new group of fans. But the years of alcohol had done too much damage. His body couldn't recover. He died in 1969, leaving behind music that was as strange and beautiful as the life he barely held on to. His legacy is one of both genius and sorrow, a reminder of what happens when brilliance and self-destruction become too closely linked. 14. Bill Evans. A jazz pianist who played with deep emotion, Bill Evans' music was soft, thoughtful, and full of feeling. He helped shape modern jazz, making it more personal and reflective. But behind the beautiful music, Evans was struggling with addiction and sadness. Many people know about his opioid use, but alcohol was also a big problem. It crept into his life quietly, filling the gaps left by opioids. He didn't drink wildly like some musicians. Instead, it was slow, steady, and destructive. He spent long hours at the piano, lost in his own world, always with a drink nearby. His body weakened, his eyes darkened, and he became a shadow of himself. His music, still incredible, started to feel heavier, filled with pain and longing. Grief made things worse. In 1973, his longtime partner took her own life, and Evans was never the same. He drank more. He lost more. His friends watched helplessly as he slowly faded. By the late 1970s, his body was barely working. He had liver disease and was severely underweight, but he kept playing. Even as he grew weaker, he never stopped making music. His final recordings were filled with sorrow, the sound of a man searching for something he could never find. In 1980, at 51 years old, his body finally gave up. A doctor called his slow decline the longest self-destruction in history. His music remains some of the most beautiful ever made, but his life is a sad warning. Even the greatest talent can be lost, piece by piece, to addiction and grief. We are left wondering, could he have saved himself, or was his fate decided long before? 15. Dave Tuff. A drummer who didn't need to show off, Dave Tuff played with feeling, keeping the beat steady without stealing the spotlight. He played for famous jazz bands like Benny Goodman, Tommy Dorsey, and Woody Herman. They all knew how good he was. But outside of music, his life was full of struggles that few people saw. Unlike other musicians who drank too much, Tuff wasn't chasing fun or fame. He was a deep thinker who liked talking with writers and artists as much as musicians. But thinking too much also brought sadness. He battled depression, and alcohol became his way to escape. At first, he handled it. Then it started to control him. One night he played perfectly. The next, he couldn't even hold his drumsticks. Sometimes he disappeared for days and then came back like nothing had happened. By the mid-1940s, his body was breaking down. His energy faded and his career slipped away. Friends tried to help, but the drinking had a hold on him. Then came the final blow. In December 1948, after another night of drinking, he fell and hit his head. He died at 41, his talent gone too soon. Dave Tuff never became a big star, but he changed jazz in a way many don't realize. His drumming was smooth and full of feeling, but his battle with alcohol kept him from getting the credit he deserved. His story is like many others in music. The songs last, but the musicians don't. His beats still echo, but he is gone, lost to the same struggle that has taken many before and after him. 16. Sonny Stitt. A saxophone player who amazed people with his fast and skillful playing, Sonny Stitt was one of the top musicians in the bebop era, and his solos were full of energy and speed. Many people compared him to Charlie Parker, another great saxophonist. Some said he was just copying Parker, but those who really listened knew he had his own sound. His music was smooth yet sharp, full of both control and emotion. But behind his talent, Stitt struggled with a big problem: alcohol. From the start of his career, drinking was always with him, growing worse over time. While some musicians lost their ability to play because of their addictions, Stitt never let it affect his performance. He always showed up to play, always delivered, no matter how much he drank. But alcohol took away other parts of his life. Stitt was both respected and feared. He was reliable in his music, but unpredictable in his behavior. When drunk, he would argue and push people away, even those who supported him. Club owners and event organizers began to avoid him. Other musicians kept their distance. While his talent was never in question, his actions made his career harder than it needed to be. As he grew older, his body started to weaken. The same discipline he had in music was missing in his personal life. The drinking caught up with him, and his health declined. Then cancer struck. Even as his body failed, he refused to stop playing. His music lost some of its strength, but never its passion. In the end, Stitt's talent never left him, but the choices he made shaped his final years. He remained a master of his instrument, but his struggles followed him until the very end. 17. Buddy Bolden. Before jazz had a name, there was Buddy Bolden. He played the cornet so loud and strong that people could hear him from miles away. His music was wild and full of energy. He didn't read music or follow rules. He just played, and people listened. People called him a king and a pioneer, but even the greatest can fall. Bolden wasn't just a musician, he was becoming a legend. But as his fame grew, so did his troubles. He drank a lot, more than most musicians. At first, it helped him relax and play. But soon, the music started to slip. He would forget notes, miss beats, and lose the magic that made him special. The same city that once cheered for him started whispering about his decline. His behavior changed. He became angry, unpredictable. He pushed people away, lost gigs, and seemed to be falling apart. Then the whispers turned into something worse. He spoke about people plotting against him, watching him. He became paranoid. The streets that once carried his music now carried his fears. In 1907, when he was only 30, he was declared insane. They sent him to the Louisiana State Insane Asylum. He never played again. For 24 years, he sat in that asylum, a shadow of the man who had once ruled New Orleans. He left no recordings, only fading memories in the minds of those who had heard him. By the time he died in 1931, many had already forgotten him. But his music lived on in the musicians he had inspired. Bolden was a king without a crown, a musician without a song. What if he had played longer? What music was lost forever when he was locked away? We may never know, but his influence remains in the heartbeat of jazz. 18. Bobby Timmons had magic in his fingers. Bobby Timmons played the piano like fire, turning cold keys into something alive. His music had deep feeling, filled with strong beats and soulful sounds. Songs like Moanin', This Here, and Dat Der made him famous. But behind his talent, trouble was growing. In the late 1950s, Timmons was a big name in jazz. Playing with Art Blakey's Jazz Messengers, he was known for his hard bop style. His music was full of energy, almost like a preacher's voice. But no matter how great his playing was, it couldn't protect him from his biggest problem: alcohol. Drinking started to take control of his life, and slowly, his music suffered. At first, the change was small. He missed a few rehearsals. Sometimes his playing wasn't as sharp. Then things got worse. His performances became unpredictable. Some nights, he played with the same fire as before, amazing the audience. Other nights, his fingers slipped and his music sounded empty. People stopped trusting him. Bandmates got frustrated. Clubs didn't want to hire him. Soon he had trouble finding work. By the time the 1960s ended, Timmons was almost forgotten. His name faded from the jazz world. The places he once played were silent. The crowds had moved on. His body also began to fail. Years of drinking led to liver disease, and his health got worse. In 1974, when he was only 38, Bobby Timmons died. His liver couldn't take any more. Another great musician was lost to alcohol. His music is still here in recordings, and his style influenced many others. But his story is also a warning, a reminder that even the brightest talent can fade too soon. But what if he had held on just a little longer? What more could he have given the world? 19. Jimmy McPartland. Moves fast. It takes, it gives, it lifts people up and knocks them down. But Jimmy McPartland stayed. He played trumpet with a warm sound that could melt even the toughest hearts. He was part of the Austin High Gang, shaping early Chicago jazz. Later, he blended into swing and Dixieland. His music told stories, happy, sad, full of life. But behind his golden trumpet sound, a darker story was happening. McPartland struggled with alcohol for many years. He wasn't a wild, reckless drinker. His downfall was slow, like water wearing away a stone. His career didn't crash all at once, but alcohol was always there, pulling him down little by little. It made him weaker, sapped his energy. His body showed the damage early. Illness, hospital visits, warning signs of what was coming. His addiction didn't just affect his music, it hurt his relationships too. His wife, pianist Marian McPartland, loved him but grew tired. She watched him fight his battle with alcohol. He wasn't dangerous or aggressive, but the drinking still weighed on them. It made him unreliable, distant. The bright future he had once seemed to have slowly faded. But McPartland did something many others couldn't. He survived. He kept playing year after year, long after many jazz musicians had burned out. He saw jazz change, lose popularity, and come back again. But survival had a price. Alcohol left its mark. His health got worse. His trumpet, once full of power, sometimes failed him. In 1991, at 83 years old, Jimmy McPartland died. He had lived longer than most of his peers, but he couldn't escape the damage alcohol had done. His story is one of both strength and struggle. His music still plays on, telling his story to those who listen. 20. Ronnie Singer. Not just any jazz guitarist, Ronnie Singer was a rare talent, someone who could have changed the way people thought about the instrument. His fingers moved so fast and smoothly across the strings that those who heard him play were amazed. Born in Chicago, he understood jazz in a way that few did. It wasn't just skill, it was something deeper, something wild and untamed. But like many talented musicians, he had a dark side. He was drawn to things that could destroy him, and no amount of talent could save him from that. His downfall was not slow, it was quick and harsh. Alcohol and substances became a part of his life, gripping him tighter each year. At first, he used them to calm his nerves before performing, but soon he couldn't function without them. The same passion that made him an incredible musician also made him vulnerable. When combined with addiction, it became his greatest weakness. Unlike some musicians who could still perform despite their addictions, Ronnie fell apart completely. His hands, once so fast and precise, began to falter. His mind, once sharp and creative, became slow and confused. His bandmates saw what was happening. They tried to help, but addiction had too strong a hold on him. By his early 20s, the way people talked about him changed. No longer was he seen as the next big thing in jazz. Instead, people spoke about him with sadness and regret. They wondered if he would recover or if he would become another tragic story in the history of music. The answer came quickly. On a cold October night in New York City, Ronnie Singer's life ended in a tragic way. Unable to see a way out, he and his wife made a desperate choice. When morning came, they were gone. Ronnie was only 25 years old. His incredible talent never got the chance to shine fully. Unlike other musicians who battled addiction for years, his story ended too soon. He didn't leave behind a large collection of recordings. He didn't have time to build a lasting legacy. Only those who had seen him perform in small, smoky clubs could truly understand what had been lost. And so the question remains, how many other great talents have disappeared before they had a chance to make their mark? How many incredible musicians have been lost before the world could hear their full potential?